It's Wednesday night.
The New York Theater Barn
is live!
I see color for the first time. Finally, I can feel the sunshine. My heart's singing for the first time. Baby, is this love? I see color for the first time. Finally, I can feel the sunshine. My heart's singing for the first time. Is this love?
Good evening and welcome to New York Theater Barn's New Work Series Live. I'm Joe Barros and I'm the Artistic Director.
And I am Jen Sandler, and I'm the Associate Artistic Director. Tonight, we are excited to present excerpts from the new musicals The Bridge and The Loophole.
The Bridge is the epic new musical based on the love story that built the Brooklyn Bridge and is written by Peter Hodgson and Kathleen Rinn. And The Loophole is the inspiring story of self-liberation that recasts the American hero and is written by 2020 Richard Rogers Award winners Jay Adana and Zeniba Now.
Yes, so welcome to the 44th installment of our award-winning, we always like to hear it, award-winning virtual new work series. For the past year, even more than a year now, we've presented 90 new musicals, lifted up the work of 168 writers, and have served over 500 artists. We never get tired of saying those numbers. We're so close to 100 new musicals that we've worked on since last March, and it's absolutely bonkers, and I couldn't be prouder.
Absolutely. And just before we came on, Kathleen was saying how there's been a chance of thunderstorms all day, and actually the thunderstorm just hit us here the second we began this, which
How
is
theatrical.
Maybe a sign from the universe.
There you go. Maybe a sign. And as always, tonight's broadcast is being simulcast to Broadway On Demand. And thank you to our friends at Broadway On Demand for all that they do for us. Last week, as you may know, we presented another historic choreography lab from Broadway Dance Center. And once again, we teamed up with our friends at Full Out Creative to present this experience.
That's right. The 8th season of the lab explored 3 musical numbers from Avi Aman, Ty Defoe, and Nolan Duran's The Lesson. The Lesson is a fantastical queer retelling of a chance encounter between a revolutionary Beethoven and a more established Mozart.
It's one of my favorite shows, and just today we found out that the show will be a part of the summer's Rhinebeck Writers Retreat headed by the amazing Kathy Evans, and I feel like this show is just an embarrassment of riches how much we see it doing right now, so we're so excited.
Absolutely.
And the inspired choreography that we saw last week was from Tiger Brown, Kathy Liu, and Mai Tai Natalio, and it was thrilling to say the least. So here is a look at last week's lab.
They say to make it in life you must follow the rules. Always do what you're told, never breaking the mold. It's the age of enlightenment, the world's gone mad. Do I follow blindly or live as I choose? How can a father who loves his child control him for fun, making me wanna run? And he can't decide what my fate is. I'll create a path that he can't refuse. And though despite my class I'll rise up from the masses, need to move from old Vienna. I need to find a man who might just understand. What if I meet Mozart? What if I could have just a moment with him? I'd have so many questions. Where to begin? How'd you get your start? Time for women in art. And what was it like being famous at 10? To travel the world, do whatever you choose. You see, I am a man who believes in the signs, like a star in the sky, ladybug in your eye. And the whole universe is saying, take a step towards the light and follow the clues. I need a brotherhood where I am understood. I gotta get to New Vienna. I know that he's the man, now I just need a plan. What if I meet Mozart? What if I could have just a moment with him? Gotta find a way to get to him. Change my life for the better. Only he can know the answers to the questions that I have inside. Gotta find a way to get to him. Yeah, my life will be better. Yeah, when I meet Mozart. Yeah, when I meet Mozart. Yeah, when I have just a with
It's just so exciting. And again, those choreographers are Tiger Brown, Kathy Lou, and Maite Natalio, all female identifying choreographers. And they were mentored by Broadway choreographers and directors Dennis Jones, Joanne M. Hunter, and Lauren Latero.
An embarrassment of riches, honestly.
Absolutely. And now here to tell us more about how you can support New York Theater Barn is one of our very own writers, Kira Stone.
Hi, I'm Kira Stone, and I'm coming to you from my home in New York City. I have a slightly sleeping baby next to me, so she might say hello. I am a musical theater writer and storyteller, composer, lyricist, pop songwriter, singer, actor, all the things. My show Salem is a dark pop electro musical about a sisterhood of the accused witches and their accusers from the 1692 Salem witch trials. Salem was proudly featured in New York Theater Barn's virtual new work series this last fall. My director, the luminous, radiant, incredible Sarna Lapine, and I were able to grow and learn so much about our show thanks to the nurturing eye of Joe, Jen, and the New York Theater Barn team. We are so thrilled that the collaboration has continued into 2021 and are excited for all that's to come. I am so proud to be part of a creative home, New York Theater Barn, that makes space for all artists and new groundbreaking musicals during incubation. The New York Theater Barn family is excited about tonight's original culture-shifting musicals, The Loophole and The Bridge. The company is proud to lift up the work of Jay Adana, Peter Hodgson, Zeniba Now, and Kathleen Wren. New York Theater Barn is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your gift tonight is tax deductible. Thank you for supporting live theater and the development of original musicals. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Kira. We are so excited to have Salem in our pipeline right now, and we're so excited for what else you have coming down as well, which hopefully we'll hear more about soon.
That's right. And making a gift tonight is easy and fun. Tonight, you can quickly donate by text at any point during the presentation or even when it's over.
You're right. It's fun. The number to give is 631-710-NYTB, 631-710. Those last four digits are 6982.
It's so fun. It's like American Idol, but musicals.
It's so fun. Yeah.
Our recent New Work series featured the new musicals Cowboy Bob and Heart Island. Here's a clip from our presentation of Molly Beach Murphy, Gina Phillips, Annie Tipp, and Alex Thrailkill's Cowboy Bob. Take a look.
Had a directing residency at Ars Nova, and they very generously were like, do whatever you like, we'll give you 3 days if you want to put something up. This was the first opportunity that I thought, okay, what if we all came together?
Peggy Jo Tallis was a real person, and we learned about her kind of like through news clips. She robbed banks for I think 20 years and was just really bowled over by the story of her. You know, she's robbing banks to pay her mother's medical bills. You know, it's sort of this big Texan myth example of how increasingly hard it is to carve out a dignified life for oneself in this country. We started spinning out, creating this world of fictional people who knew her in fictional situations and how she affected their lives. Sometimes you have to fight for your life to save it, you know?
And sometimes that fight takes surprising forms. The music that kind of came up is a tapestry of different genres inspired by music that maybe Peggy Jo's mother was listening to or Peggy Jo was listening to as a kid, the big echoey girl bands.
You land in surprising sonic spaces and surprising genres. The songs that we hear tonight sort of show something new about the person who's singing it and the experience that they're having.
Some people get new lives, climb out of the water young and fresh baptized. Inside of the high plateau, can I leave my life behind and let the outlaw go? But I know, if these dreams last forever, then I'll get something back. These dreams are my tether, and I feel them pull me back. I know what I am, I know what I've become. A cowboy ain't finished till he knows he's done.
Wow.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, both of these shows were in NAMT, and we've been mystified with them for months. And, I think we realized again why we were so taken by them 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. And the other show you're about to hear from was also in NAMT.
Yeah. Here's a clip from Michelle Elliott and Danny Hengel Larson's Heart Island. Take a look.
It ain't lost on me that the rich man gets to lie in a fancy mausoleum. But the poor man, he gets buried where nobody can see him. Like he's never lost or loved, never danced or drew a breath. He was invisible in life, and he's invisible in death. It ain't lost on me.
An article about Hart Island, which I had never heard of. And then when I started talking to other people around me about this location, no one in New York City that I would talk to ever had heard of it.
The island played a big role during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s, and unfortunately a lot of people who passed away from HIV, AIDS, were abandoned by their families.
It's all about humanity and connection, and people who are on the margins of society who are forgotten, that get brushed away, that we don't want to think about, so we send them to this island so that we don't have to think about them.
The island has a long history. It actually has Civil War soldiers buried on the island, and it became the city's public burial ground right after the Civil War, so over 150 years ago.
Something that happened to a lot of mothers and parents at back in the 80s. If they couldn't afford a public burial, they would be given the option to have their child buried, their baby buried on Hart Island. But what they didn't realize, and what they weren't always told, was that they wouldn't be able to visit the gravesite, because there are no gravesites.
Now you have a baby who did not take a breath. No one there who can help you to grieve. This blanket's for baby to protect him in death. You must take to his graveside and leave. Say we are sorry that he did not live, did not know his mama and all she could give. Let him know that he's loved by his whole family. Let him know he's missed and always will be. Give him the blanket.
I've been thinking about this show a lot since 2 weeks ago, and I kind of did a lot of slaving after, and I found out the actor that played Peter Pan, like the voice of Peter Pan in the 40s, is even buried on Hart Island.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And these are like theater legends: Rodney Hicks, Natasha Diaz. So it was so exciting to have them on board. Well, now let's get started. Our first show tonight is The Bridge, which has book and lyrics by Kathleen Wrynn and music by Peter Hodgson. When Emily Roebling's husband falls mysteriously ill and is unable to continue as chief engineer, Emily must do the impossible: secretly take her husband's place as chief in an era half a century before women were allowed to vote. With a genre-defying score as vibrant as New York City itself, The Bridge explores the forces that unite and divide us. It is the story of mistakes and forgiveness, of great sacrifice and even greater hope, of finding a way forward across the uncrossable together.
Wow. And now joining us from their homes right in New York are the writers and creators of The Bridge, Peter Hodgson and Kathleen Wrynn.
Hi, it's great to be here. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So we were saying before we got on that we found out after we spoke to you earlier in the week that it's the 138th anniversary this week of the Brooklyn Bridge opening. And we didn't plan this. I didn't program you this week for that reason, but that's how the cookie crumbles, and we're so
it's fate. It's fate. It's why we have all the thunderstorms. It's just divine intervention.
Well, thank you for being here, Peter. Your full-length musicals include Lady Mercy and Boundless, and as a musical director, you've worked on Kate Kerrigan and Brie Loudermilk's The Bad Years. Kathleen, your full-length musicals include 10, The Story of Grace and Joe, and The Forgetting of Snow, co-written with Paolo K. Tirol, who we love. Paolo's show On the Side of the World was included in this series as well. You're also a professor of musical theater at Syracuse University's Department of Drama, which is one of the nation's leading musical theater training programs. And speaking of Syracuse, the Bridge received its first workshop this spring at Syracuse University. And we have a clip of that experience. So take a look.
Yeah.
When we look at a building 100 feet high, and we see how its walls climb from soil to sky, do we ask while we stand in their shade, when and how those walls we see were made?
I have always been drawn to untold stories of incredible women. So when I learned that a woman secretly built the Brooklyn Bridge, I knew that was a story I needed to tell.
The world around her was full of culture and division and tension, and music was the perfect way to show that, from the construction of the bridge and the cables that looked like strings on a harp, the tower that looked like stately brass. Recently, we had our first workshop of the show, and it was so thrilling to hear the music on real people and to take that critical step in the development process.
We have been so inspired by the story of Emily Roebling, and now we can't wait to share her story and our musical with a wider audience.
It's just so magical. And
I feel like I'm there.
You gotta love a wind chime, you know?
Right. Well, I just love that description about a woman secretly was responsible for the building of the Brooklyn Bridge.
And it shouldn't be a secret.
That's right. And
that's our goal.
Yeah. Similar to this, we also got to present a show called Clicquot, which is about the woman who basically made the champagne Veuve Clicquot, which literally means the widow Clicquot, which she became because her husband died. So your show tells the untold true love story that saved the Brooklyn Bridge and is anchored by a powerful female identifying protagonist. What was the impetus for your collaboration, and what drew you to excavate this story?
Yeah, so Peter and I actually, we met in graduate school at NYU, and we were, I remember in our first year there hearing his different projects that would get shown. And every time I heard his music, I was like, I want to write with that music. I want to write with that music. And so it was kind of a quick falling. Well, at least, I mean, I'll let you speak for yourself. It was a quick falling on my part.
She's not wrong. I mean, we were made to write with everyone in our class, so we really didn't get a say of who we were writing with. And that in and of itself was just like invaluable experience to have. But anytime I heard Kathleen's lyrics, I was like, oh, they're so like, and this is the thing personally for me, they're so structured. It's so nice. Like, it makes sense. It just made sense to me. It just clicked. Like, sometimes that happens. I'm not sure I could actually put that into like the mechanics of exactly what it was, but I just gravitated towards them. And so when we got the chance to work on a couple projects together, it was instantly like, this is easy.
Yeah,
like,
we're going to do this for a while. And
yeah, we're going to do this for a minute.
We were actually introduced to the idea of and the story of Emily Roebling and this kind of secret backstory to how the bridge got built by a classmate of ours at graduate school. And it was, I mean, I said that in the video there, but I've always just been so enamored with untold stories of women from history. I'm a real research nerd. I love diving into time periods and getting to imagine the behind closed doors action and hearing about the fact that this incredible feat of engineering had this second incredible feat of this sort of puppeteering of strings and staying out of the limelight and taking over when her husband fell ill was just unbelievable to me. And for a decade, I mean, she essentially ran the site for a decade.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I kind of did my own reading last night. And, basically he got sick and she went to his bedside and would relay things back to the people constructing the bridge. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
And like the thing that really like kind of sealed the deal about why this needs to be told is when you look up like even scholarly articles or people's like thesis projects that have to do with the bridge, they always say like, well, the last 10 years were from a courier, like a trusted courier of Washington, or a secretarial assistant. And you're like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you couldn't even like give a name to it. You had to say a secretarial assistant or something. So that kind of sealed the, okay, well, we have to tell it. You know, we have to do our best to tell it.
And Washington didn't even see the bridge open, right?
No, he didn't come to the opening.
Mm-hmm.
He actually didn't set foot on it again basically from the time that he was out when he got ill with the bends. He then didn't come back until years after it had opened. So he was very detached from it. And I just, to say too, the idea just had so much music in it. I mean, the music of the city, the music of the building. I mean, you look at that bridge and it's hard to not hear it sing, right? And so that was a big draw for us too.
Yeah, I mean, a musical is like the only way to tell it. I mean, there's that saying of like, when a character can't speak, they sing, and it's like, well, she literally wasn't allowed to like say her piece in this story and in this history. So it was like, well, of course, behind a closed door, she's gonna belt her face off or something, you know, a little bit of frustration there. So.
Well, and speaking of stories of untold stories of women through history, we had the great privilege of developing a musical called I Married Wyatt Earp, which became The Belle of Tombstone, which is about the Jewish wife of Wyatt Earp and the women of the American West. And it's co-written by our board president emeritus, Sheila Ray, who actually saw Kathleen perform a song from this at a virtual presentation. And that's how we did it. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So tell us more about your development path before you performed this at Maestra. And Sheila was like, we have to work with her.
Absolutely. So we started researching about 4 years ago. So we've been working on it for a while. We researched for about a year and then started writing in earnest. And since then, we've been lucky enough, we've had 2 residencies at the Catwalk Art Institute, which funnily enough is not that far from Cold Spring, New York. They're both along the Hudson, and Cold Spring is where Emily Roebling grew up, and is also where she and Washington are buried. And so there's this, when we've worked there at Catwalk and written, we've been just along the Hudson and looking out on this river that Emily looked out on growing up, and also just looking out on a river is really inspiring for this piece. So that's been like a second home for us for this show. And then we just got to do a workshop at Syracuse in the middle of this pandemic, which was this incredible gift and required the brilliance of both logistically and artistically of Rebecca Aparicio, who directed the piece and who just rolled with everything you can probably imagine happened in the course of a COVID theater workshop. So
I've never had to think so much about not theater during a theater process in order to like stay safe and make sure everyone was healthy.
And was it in person or was it virtual?
Half and half. All of the music learning occurred in person. We had some choreography that occurred in person, and then we would do scene work over Zoom. And so it was a hybrid. And then our final presentation was live Zoom scenes and recorded songs that we had recorded in person. So it was a wild ride.
Some of the clips from that trailer you just played, those were the videos that were played, and it was a brilliant use of what we had and what the Syracuse building we were in had to offer, like
using the stairs
and
we're trying to keep distance between people. So she's like, what's that big spiral staircase? Let's film something there. It was a really exciting process to work with her as a director, and just to get to hear all these new perspectives on the piece and start to see it live on these energetic, talented human beings.
To see people care about the story as much as we do, you know, like we've been living with this for so long. It's kind of like we know these people, even though we were never going to speak a word to them. We know these people, and when we had other people come in and also be like, this is insane, why don't people know this story, and start to dig into it, and they were doing their own research, and it was just so like affirming to be like, oh, this is a story that people care about, and this is a story that deserves to be told.
And I think we have such a newfound appreciation for us as more than just the art that we were supposed to do. You know, we're stage managers at the end of the day. It's crazy the things we've done in the last year, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's tell us a little bit about the first song you're going to present tonight.
Absolutely. So, you know, something that we have come up against again and again in our research for the bridge is the fact that there is so much information to be found about the men surrounding this project, and particularly about Washington, Emily's husband. But there's just so comparatively little to be found about Emily. And we know that Washington was a colonel in the Civil War. We know that he had this really tumultuous relationship with his abusive father. We know that becoming chief engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge was this incredibly trying experience for him mentally, emotionally, physically. But what we don't know is what Emily felt about any of that, as she was his partner. And he even called her the strong tower that he leaned on, right? So that's the only piece of information we have about her experience of supporting him through this. And so this song, Something I Can Do, is our best guess at what it was really like for her.
It's being performed by you.
It is.
So here is Something I Can Do.
I don't carry what he carries. I don't feel the hurt he feels. I'm not sure just where the wound is, but I know it never heals. I can't wake him from the nightmares that his memories put him through, but I can tell him that I love him. That is something I can do. I can't be there in his childhood to defend him from his dad. Can't unsay the names he called him or give him peace he never had. I can't kiss away the bruises or the bones that broke in two. But I can love him. I can love him. That is something I can do. Right now his burden's heavy and my own is small. Right now I lift him up and he can't help at all. But when my burden's heavy, as it may one day be, he'll be ready to lift it for me. Till then I'll hold him when he's shaking, and I'll never ask what for. He won't say just what he's grieving, if it's his father or the war. But I'll pretend it doesn't scare me, though we both know that isn't true. Still I love him. I love him. Yes, I love him. I love him. Oh, I love him. I will love him. That's the one thing I can do.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Great job, Kathleen.
Thanks. That one was really our, and I remember we wrote that at Catwalk, Peter, right? The second time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that one was really the moment where we started to feel like we got inside of Emily and started to trust our own guesses at what her experience was like. And so that was really like a quiet moment for her that was, I remember, really important to us in our process.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where, like, I don't know how best to put this, but like, because you like, obviously Emily was a person, and like that's where you connect with her. Like, they didn't feel things differently back then. If you had a partner who was in trouble, you still felt the same way you would today. And that became really, really clear when we just kind of reached into the void and went, this is how we would feel? Like, this is the music I would feel. These are the words Kathleen would feel. And it connected us to the humanity of her, and subsequently all the characters we started looking at that way too.
And all the dots, there's all these like little dots to be connected for him in terms of PTSD. They didn't have language for it back then. There's no sort of diagnosis that would be given, but there's all these little hints throughout. And so that's something that we decided to explore too.
And how do you think they would feel if they knew you had created a musical about them? Is this something, does their family know about the show? How is your research really driven? I'm so curious.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful question. I mean, up to this point, we don't as of yet have any connection to the Roebling family. It is something that we're interested in. Emily Roebling, one thing we know about her, she cut out all of the newspaper clippings about the bridge and made these enormous scrap albums of it for her husband. And so she definitely was up on any sort of like publicity, anything that was being said about them. So I'm sure she would she would know that this was occurring if she were alive. But yeah, that's definitely something that we're interested in going forward. And we've tried to be really true to their spirit as well as to as many of the facts we could keep about them as possible. So
yeah. And there's been great resources actually, like in 2017, in June of 2017, I think, there was a book called The Chief Engineer, which released a lot of manuscripts from Washington.
We got to see it more inside. Yeah.
It changed the whole course of our like kind of rough outline. We were like, oh my gosh, they had such information. Really, it did help like get to know them as people.
Well, if you are a Roebling family member or you know one, get in contact with Kathleen and Peter.
I love that your journey is both about authenticity, but also about your personal experiences, and if you were there then, and how you can connect to the story. Tell us about our second song, Onward.
Yeah. Oh, yay! So this is the end of the act. And Washington has fallen ill with the bends, and they didn't know what the bends were. They had called it something called Caisson's disease, but essentially, the majority of him just like didn't work, and so he was ready to resign. And he told Emily that, and Emily had another idea and sang this song.
Yeah, and he'd gotten the bends, just for people who don't know, from digging down. The foundations had to go so deep, and the decompressing of coming out of that. And again, this whole bridge of firsts. They didn't know why people were getting sick, but all we knew is that he could no longer continue, and so she only had one choice.
So here is Kathleen again singing Onward.
When you are there at home, lying in that bed, looking out that window, you'll wish that you were here, leading like you led. So this is where I'll be, and I'll go from here to there. And I'll go from there to here, and you'll have a bridge in me, and we'll go onward, onward, on to what's next, what's new, to a shore we swore we'd never reach, and suddenly we're standing on the beach. That's what bridges do. When I am with the men, learning as I go, fielding all their questions.
The workers will never listen to you, Emily.
They'll wish that I were you and knew the things you know, but I won't have to be, for I'll go from them to you, and I'll go from you to them, and they'll have a bridge in me, and we'll go onward, onward,
What's new? To a side we tried but could not meet. Then suddenly there's a road beneath our feet. That's what bridges do. When the ground is even and it's miles of open land, we can get across all on our own. But when there is a river or our legs refuse to stand, that is when we cannot cross alone. That is when we trust a bridge to help us walk on air. Washington, you got us here. Now let me get you there. Onward, onward, on to what's next, what's new. Onward, onward, to a goal we hold within our sights, where suddenly New York is Brooklyn Heights. That's what bridges do.
Hey, it's so epic. It has that energy of ragtime. I love it.
And then she takes over. And then she takes
Dun, dun,
the
dun.
Hopefully that gets you through the 15 minutes and brings you back for Act 2.
That's our hope.
I mean, it's very clearly one of those songs where the lights goes out after, and you're like, "What did I just see? I can feel it already."
I'm glad.
Well, thank you both for this beautiful presentation. We'd love for people to learn more about the bridge. So we're going to put up both of your websites so they can go there to learn more about you and the bridge.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
It's
guys
so
for
great to
having
be here.
us.
And thanks for doing this during this time, really. It's such a gift.
Yeah, it's been so wonderful.
Thank you. And I'm so inspired to learn more about the bends and this like chamber underneath the water and how it was created. It sounds so fascinating.
It's
Sounds epic.
unreal.
We got songs about that too.
We do.
Steve.
We have a
Come
long.
on
We have
over.
a long sequence about that. So we got you covered, Joe.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Peter and Kathleen. We'll see you very soon.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, the bridge was so exciting, but now for something different, the loophole.
Yes, The Loophole has music and lyrics by Jay Adana and book and bars by Zeniba Now. It's 1864. Polly Danfield, a brilliant black mapmaker, has never left her white father's house. She's free inside her library, but when the outside world and mysterious Alligator Queen beckon, Polly must choose the life she's known or love and revolution. With a blend of folk, rap, poetry, and body percussion, this swampy epic recasts the American hero. Wow, wow, wow.
And now joining us from London and California are the 2020 Richard Rogers Award-winning writers of The Loophole, Jay Adana and Zeniba Now.
We're not making that up. One of you is in London and it's almost 1 a.m. and the other is in the past in California.
So exciting. Well, thank you both for joining us. Jay, you are a Hapa musician telling stories with emotional simplicity and thick beats and
That's what
body.
her bio says.
Your works include the inventive and celebrated play The Woodsman, which played sold-out runs at New World Stages, 1590s, 59th Street Theaters, and Ars Nova. Finger paintings, Le Fay, The Last Tiger in Haiti, and you're currently developing several musical movies. You were awarded the Jonathan Larson Grant and were a Dramatist Guild Foundation Fellow. Zeniba, you're a musical storyteller and art scientist from Los Angeles, California, whose work aims to inspire magic and possibility. You've received residencies and fellowships with the Public Theater and the Dramatist Guild Foundation, and as an actor, you appeared in the world premiere of Kit Yan and Melissa Lee's Interstate.
We love them.
We love them and we love that piece. Together, as we said, you are the 2020 Richard Rogers Award winning writers for The Loophole, which is extraordinary. You also won a 2021 Vivace Award for the Brett Adams and Paul Reich Foundation for your show in development, Vera and the Battle for New Soul, our very own Jen Sandler and Hector Flores Jr., got to help produce that presentation, and I was on the advisory board. So it was so exciting to hear people talk so lovingly and so thoughtfully and so highly of both of you. So Jay and Zeniba, how did you come to collaborate, and what led you to the Loophole?
Well, hi everyone. Jay and I came to collaborate. We met and worked together for the first time in a program at the Public Theater called #Bars at the Public, which explores verse-driven theater. So the intersection of rap and verse and poetry and slam. And we, once the theme was decided that it was going to be American literature, Jay and I both chose Beloved as the classic we would want to work on. And we were paired together, and it was pretty well received. And then Jay asked me if I wanted to work with her on this piece. And we've been together ever since. And that was
since
5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, we clicked really well, and I think we both really loved what we came up with for Beloved, so it seemed like a pretty natural fit to keep working together.
Yeah.
And how did the Loophole come about? Just we're like, let's write this.
They're ghosts that keep showing up in our houses and won't really leave us alone, so we have to.
Yeah, we had no say. We didn't decide. It was chosen for us.
You're just sitting around, and all of a sudden it's like Alligator Queen.
I have to write the show.
Yeah, genuinely. They just speak in the night, in the dark.
Well, that's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your development and how you got to the Richard Rogers Award.
Yeah, so we did that Beloved presentation. The next year, we became the alumni residency writers of that program, and so to develop the Loophole. And I would say the biggest sort of step there, and also in my personal artistic development, was that residency came with one-on-one training with Jeannie O'Hare, who was the head of New Works and Development at the Public Theater at the time. And so we were just meeting with her every week for months learning for years, actually, eventually, but for weeks during the program, months during the program. And somehow we swindled her into continuously pouring into our careers. And we just kept meeting with her and really learned so much about storytelling, sort of like a master's degree in storytelling right there. And from there, Jeannie sort of worked to get us commissions through the Public Theater for various events. And we just sort of kept building up and building up. Then we did the Dramatists Guild Foundation. Eventually, then we had a production in Public Studio, developmental production of Act One. And that was basically one of the last things we did in the course of this development before
one instrumentalist. There was
with one person in the pit. That was Rodney Bush, who was sitting on a cajon.
Sitting on a cajon and playing the piano at the same time.
And playing the piano with one hand and singing into a mic backup. So Rodney he's a real financial saver, real bundle.
And you've had some great people involved. You had Away Tempo involved. You've had the great Laurie Woolery, just an embarrassment of riches on this piece so far.
Hope Boykin, Jeannie O'Hare, Raphael Casal, and Davi Diggs, and just sort of all kinds of people.
Who's that? I don't know Davi Diggs.
But just all kind of people who have really poured into us and into this story and into our careers and have helped us get to this point. Yeah, very blessed and very fortunate.
Well, we're so excited to present 2 songs from your show tonight, one of which will be live. So tell us about your first song, Mine Eyes.
Okay, so this song takes place our main character is Polly, and previously she and Acker have fallen in love, and something happens, and they're separated for a year. So in this song, Acker is returning back to Atlanta, marching with the all-black 33rd Regiment of the Union Army. during the last year of the American Civil War. And the mystical Alligator Queen is watching with a warning. And it's worth noting that some of the beat that you hear is actually body percussion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we have you on this. We have Zeniba, and we have Jean-Michael Lyles, who you may have seen in The Amazing Strange Loop.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And so
Incredible.
you can imagine that this number is an ensemble of stunningly handsome Black male identifying people step dancing.
Well, you will find out. So here is Mine Eyes.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the morning on the wave. He is wisdom to the mighty, he is succor to the brave. And with my Lord beside me, I shall never be a slave. Our truth will carry on.
You can take away my words, all I wrote, all you heard. They can burn and scatter on the breeze. You can take away my love, I'll kiss my children from above. Not enough, but don't forget me, please. You can take away my breath, I'll embrace whatever death. I'm gonna tell my widow Isaac. But you'll never take away what we do these few days. All the graves we fill to make our country free. I made it, I waited through blood and through fire. It ain't on my fear, now my only desire is answers to questions been pestering my soul. Came 800 miles, got one left to go. Is she in there? Don't care about nothing else. Is she in there? Swear I'll break each brick myself. Is she in there? Please be in there. Ain't gonna break me now. Ain't gonna take me now. Ain't gonna make me tremble no more. Now ain't gonna shake me. Finally awake me. Centuries waiting, we'll be slaves evermore. Beware the breaking dawn. Beware the breaking dawn. Our truth will carry on.
Wow.
Wow.
I just love to be so cognizant of the story from the word, but also from the pulse of it all, the rhythm of it. It's exciting.
Thank you so much.
I agree.
Yeah, that would. I said in the chat it would be really thrilling to have that percussion as an actor-driven source of music, and for the audience to see it being made, not just hearing it, but
Yeah, I
experience.
really want the theater to shake.
She says that very consistently every meeting we've ever taken for years.
Well, tell us about our second song, because Zeniba's going to be singing it, and I'm really
Ooh.
excited about it.
Yeah, so our second song is called Out There. And it's sung by Polly, the main character, early in the show. And this is a point where Acker has just proposed to her, but sort of on the condition that they go and do all the things they've said they're going to do, where she is essentially agoraphobic. And so it's her deciding whether or not she wants to choose safety and hiding or to be fully liberated and sort of follow her dreams.
And you're going to be singing this live.
Yes.
So here you are.
Okay. To Acker, it's so easy. Why not leave? We're free to go. But what waits out there to meet us? Could we ever just be us? I still don't know. 'Cause it's a dangerous world for a colored girl, and safe at home's all that I've ever known. But if he stays, he's gonna break. So is there a me that makes my way? Out there, who would I be out there? I want adventure too, wanna see the view. From mountaintops I've only drawn, where the land stops breathing dawn. I'll chart the western shore, I'll explore. Could I make it there to see? Am I being too naive? Let loose who's inside, or hide and hide and hide. With the lines I'm in shrink to my own skin. Still I know that at night when I close my eyes, my last prayer is that I get to see what lies out there beside him, out there. All this resistance in the tiniest distance, like the property line is the edge of existence. Before you drop into the void, collective nightmare, the terror of out there. Mama, do I dare? Give me a sign, leave or stay. If your prayers protect me, I'll be okay. Okay, speak the facts. What do you know? That the vast world is mostly unknown, and damn sure better than books I've outgrown. That I could help set the world free if I take the hand of that man and flee. And that man's a damn fine sight to see. Yeah, think positive, Polly. Think positive, Polly. Loosen the safety of fixed states to know. Leap one step further than fear lets me go. I'll love, love, love my black love, love. New maps of pure black love, no lack. Cause if monsters start coming at me and my husband, I'll go on and summon my Harriet Tubman. Yeah, all of a sudden we go on and gun them down. Woo! I got the fire now. Think I gotta see who the me out there would be. Oh, we can be enough. 'Cause it's all a bluff. Pretending books are all I need. I don't crave the chance to see the world's been calling me. Ooh, how'd I get so scared? Live tied to my chair. If I never take this chance, I would watch my whole life pass from one spot and all alone. And without Acker, this ain't home. So I'll trust instead of no. Look, I'm finally going. I'm going out there.
Oh my God.
What a star.
Kathleen
you.
Wren is saying in the chat that you must play this part when you have another production. I agree.
If Jay lets me.
No, it's really amazing. I can't wait.
No,
I
our
can't wait.
chat is going insane.
I can't wait for the cast album
Thank
of
you,
The
everyone.
Loophole and The Bridge.
Well, it's
Yes.
so crazy. This story, when you hear like, I was reading your log line and your description, and it sounds like it can't be true, but I mean, well, it's not based on a true story, but it's just such a crazy story, and it needs to be told.
It's not based on truth that we know, but based on how the story comes to us. Somebody wants us to tell this story, and we do. We have collected historical materials throughout the last 6 years, where we are slowly finding. We found now a Black cartographer. We found now many aspects of the story that actually are totally legitimate.
And all of the people that this would have been real for would be hiding from any sort of documentation.
That was the other thing we learned about free Black people in rural Georgia, is because there's actually a book called Ambiguous Lives about free Black women in rural Georgia, and that was really helpful. But that they were intentionally destroying any traces of themselves, and because you wanted to be able to just pick up and leave if people got onto you, things got hairy, and you wanted there to be no trace of you. And so many incredible figures like this and made sure there was no trace of them to be found by us.
Wow. So, this story, it feels topical and timely in a way I'm sure you didn't expect when you wrote it, and especially the year we've gone through.
Yeah.
I hope, do you feel that, we need stories like this? Do you think, stories like your show will inspire and change audiences as we go back to the theater post the systematic racism and reckoning we've had over the last year? I think we need to see stories like this on stage more than ever now, so we can keep changing audiences and helping them learn and understand.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, at its heart, a story about people outside of what their what identitarianism would tell us, coming together to fight as a community. And so hopefully that message is powerful in any time period. Yeah.
And we have no idea what anything's going to look like after this, because we haven't built anything yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's scary, but it's also so exciting.
Yeah, but also speaking of community, members of our community crossed the Brooklyn Bridge yesterday. I wanted to bring that up to sort of bridge almost both shows to commemorate the passing of George Floyd and what we've all been through the past year. Our community is struggling and trying to work together to come out of this as a group. And I think, again, it's about community. It's about working together.
Yes. And, there's never been a better time to be an artist. There's never been a better time to be incarnate on earth. And so if you're here for a reason. And so it's a great time to be here.
And making.
Well, thank you both for that. I love your energy about, someone wants us to tell this story. There's energy that's greater than us, that's surrounding all of us as artists. So thanks for acknowledging that tonight. And thank you both for being here. We can't wait to see more from the Loophole.
Jay, go to bed.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Here are your websites if people want to find you.
Yes. Check us out. Book us, produce us, all of it.
All of it. So we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
I love them. What a group.
It's been a really, really wonderful night.
Well, that is our show for tonight.
Well,
the New Work series will be back. Ooh, I think you're having a delay, Joe. That is our show for tonight. The New Work series will be back in 2 weeks on Wednesday, June 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the new musicals Shanghai Sonatas and Perpetual Sunshine and the Ghost Girls.
Shanghai Sonatas is written by Sean Gao, Alan Goodson, and Joyce Hill-Stoner, and Perpetual Sunshine and the Ghost Girls is written by Sarah Cooper and Lynn Schenkel. You can also join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. for a concert of songs written by students of Tony Award-winning writer William Finn. Inspired by his love of teaching and a desire to motivate emerging writers to continue to hone their craft during the pandemic, William Finn met with writers every Sunday afternoon for 2 consecutive 10-week sessions, creating communities in which the writers could share and receive feedback on their work. This is the second of 2 concerts that we will produce of all original work.
And I saw the one last week, and it was what a time to hear, William Finn, to put Joe on the spot, is one of his heroes, and to hear them talking last week was a gift. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. I directed a production of Falsettos when I was 17, and it was just really great to speak to him because that moment changed my life. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to create this company. So if you enjoyed yourself tonight, please join our generous donors by making your gift today at nytheaterbarn.org/give or by text at 631-710-NYTB. That's 631-710-6982.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank you for supporting live theater.
Good night.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Jeff Calhoun, and I'm a theater director. And I can tell you that musicals are a very fragile thing. There has never been a musical in the history of the theater that has gone from page to stage without the proper developmental process. And as the years go on and the expense of putting on a musical gets greater and greater, it's harder and harder to find places where you can actually develop new musicals. If you don't have a huge star or if you don't have marquee value, where do you develop a musical? Well, if you're lucky, you do it at the New York Theater Barn with people like Joe Barros. I was fortunate enough to work on a musical there, and we did a reading, and we had never heard it before. And what we learned from that reading and the notes we got from Joe were invaluable. I'm telling you, it's a miracle it ever works, and there's nothing more important than the developmental stage of a new musical. And thank God for the New York Theater Barn.